When you look at Marvel Studios as a whole when it comes to their cinematic universe, it's impressive. They were able to take these comic book characters many people didn't consider A-list characters at the time and turn them into household names. They produced some of the best superhero films ever and truly made these comic book heroes feel like real people with incredible character development. We're talking about a studio that was able to average $1 billion per movie. That is truly an impressive feat. But you know what's more impressive? How fast the MCU has went from people being so excited for every single project coming out to now seeing flop after flop when it comes to their projects. And now with their newest installment, The Marvels, it's currently being projected to be the lowest opening in history for any Marvel project. I'm going to be covering this film and there will most likely be spoilers, so if you care about that kind of stuff, you've been warned. I'm going to try to do a brief overview of pretty much the entire film, and then I'll go into some more details. The movie starts off with a ripoff Ronin who finds herself the other half of the bangles that Miss Marvel had. Our main characters begin to touch things that they really shouldn't even be touching in the first place, and boom, just like that, their powers are connected and intertwined. Ripoff Ronin has a plan that is to restore her planet that was destroyed by Captain Marvel. Now, that's something that they tell us through exposition because, honestly, that's something that should have been a movie. Maybe like a Captain Marvel 2, but they just fast forward through that stuff and the fact that there was a Kree Civil War that's currently going on, but, you know, it is what it is. Now, the way that this ripoff Ronin is going about to save her planet is that she is literally going to suck the air out of one planet, suck the water from another, and then take the sun from our solar system.
Commence Operation Vacuum Suck.
After she succeeds on taking the water and the air, they move into our solar system where the Marvels find themselves in a fight against Ripoff Ronin. The villain gets the upper hand and fools the heroes by taking the two bangles, and what she then tries to do is create a portal that she can use to take the sun to her planet. But that plan doesn't end up going too well because she ends up Minecrafting herself. But in the process of that, she opens an interdimensional portal to another universe that apparently needs to be closed from the other side. So Monica goes, absorbs the power from the two Marvels, and shuts the door, leaving her trapped on the other side. And that's it. It's the shortest MCU movie to date, and yet there are still so many things that you could have cut out. Now, I'm not going to talk about every detail, but I am going to bring up some things that I liked and I didn't like in no particular order, because I have just finished watching this film and it's already trying to escape my mind. So let's get into this before I forget some stuff. I do want to start off and cover some things that I really liked. Some of the action scenes I thought were done cleverly with the three of the Marvels and having them swapping places. I did like the montage they used when they're trying to figure out how their powers work, and I really enjoyed that final fight scene when they're all kind of working in unison, swapping places with each other to take on the final villain. I thought that was really well handled. I would have loved to see more, but you know, it is what it is. Another thing that I thought was done well was the chemistry between the three Marvels, sometimes. And I say that because for the most part of the film, I don't buy their chemistry, and I'm not invested in any of them throughout the whole film, but I feel like they all had at least their moments that really stood out. I think Miss Marvel was actually a highlight of the movie, although her only purpose is really comic relief, and it works sometimes, but then they overuse her character and she kind of comes off very annoying. And I thought that Captain Marvel's character actually was a little bit of an improvement compared to the first one. She actually showed a little bit more character. She showed some, like, I don't know, human traits, but still there were many times where she was kind of standoffish and her typical nobody likes this version of Captain Marvel, you know, version. Oh, and I think the highlight is the post-credit scene, which is saying something about your movie, but I really like to hear Kelsey Grammer's voice as Beast. And I think his design was great. I love the classic look for him, but good grief, that CGI is terrible. This film cost $300 million, and it looks like it was rushed in to hopefully bring people in to watch the film for a post-credit scene, which probably happened. Other than that, there's nothing. The story's not well written. It feels like the audience is missing something, almost like there should have been a movie before this came out. The villain in this is just as forgettable as pretty much most of their Marvel, but this one I think would be topping up with like Malekith, you know, the evil elf. She has this hammer that looks pretty similar to Ronin's hammer, and it glows purple just like the Power Stone. Is there a Power Stone in it? I don't know how, because wasn't it established that the Power Stone has been reduced to atoms? But they don't explain that in the film. Also, like I mentioned before, the villain gets the two bands, and when she combines it, ends up killing herself and creating a rift in the space-time continuum, or some crap like that, right? So that means the universe is ending again, because that's every Marvel movie now. So what's the big deal? I mean, it's just another Tuesday at this point, right? I mentioned the switching of powers earlier, and it's interesting when they do the fight scenes and you see them swapping in and out of each other. But they only do that when it's convenient to the story. And other than Captain Marvel, the rest of them are just humans. So when when they swap places in mid-air and fall to the ground, it should hurt. There's actually a scene on the water planet where Monica Rambeau switches places and falls onto a shallow portion of water from hundreds of feet in the air, essentially belly flopping onto it, and then stands up like nothing. That should have killed her, if not broken every bone in her body at least. Also, Valkyrie's in this movie dressed up like Men in Black without the cool shades. Her role in this movie is just to show up and tell Captain Marvel to keep her head up and take the Skrulls to a safe place where they can live. Kind of sounds like they should have done that earlier with the Skrulls, and maybe we could have been spared the horrific show called Secret Invasion. Oh, and there's cats in this movie. You know the Flerken thingy majiggers, the alien cats, right? If that sounds kind of randomly thrown into this review, it's because it kind of was, and that's exactly what they did in this film with the cats and the whole space station subplot. Nick Fury didn't need to be in this movie. Kamala's parents didn't need to be in this movie. And the cats in the space station did not need to be in this movie. Also, the cats end up sucking people up like little vacuums for extra storage. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Oh, and there's a scene where Fury crash lands from space in their escape pod onto concrete from space. And somehow everyone exits without a single scratch on them. And then towards the end of the film, we have Miss Marvel acting like Nick Fury to recruit people for her new female-led Young Avengers. And she goes to Kate Bishop. And dude, I kid ye not, there were 5 people in that auditorium watching this film. And when Kate Bishop showed up, all I heard from this person was, "Who is that?" There was even a dude behind me yawning like 5 or 6 times throughout this film. Overall, this was just a pathetic attempt to try to make 3 non-likable characters that people don't even really know work, and it doesn't. You could tell that there were some good ideas in this film, and it wasn't executed properly at all. You had times where I thought they could really lean into character development with Miss Marvel in particular, and they didn't. There's a scene where people are running to escape pods, and Miss Marvel's trying to save the people, and Kamala says, you know, we can't leave them because we got to get everybody on board, and Captain Marvel tells her, no, we need to save the ones that we can. And I thought that was a really good scene, and I would have loved to see them dig deeper into that, because you could have taken this happy-go-lucky character who idolizes Captain Marvel and developed her into someone who now has to look at her idol in a way she's never seen before. And that could have been some really good conflict and character development for this hero, and shows Kamala that being a hero isn't just about sunshines and rainbows. There needs to be tough choices called, but it's just brushed over. They try to connect it later in the film with some throwaway line, and it just doesn't. Same with Monica. She clearly has some disdain for Captain Marvel, and that issue is just brushed over as well. There's so much that could have been done that they didn't do, and you can tell that this movie was edited like crazy, and it feels like it's just cut and pasted all over the place. This movie had me very bored for most of it, and this will most likely be, unfortunately, another flop for Marvel. They were at the top of their game a few years ago and had it all going for them, and they could have continued that streak for another 10 years if they wanted to. There was plenty of older comics that they could have adopted with great story that they chose to skip. They chose to stop making good movies. They chose to stop hiring people with skill that knew how to write, and they stopped caring about the fans and their characters. The MCU has been on a downward trend for a while now, and even if they try to put out good content, they have lost fans entirely. When people watched a Marvel movie, and even if they didn't like it, it was a good thing because at least the audience cared enough to go out and see the film and cared enough to talk about it and want it to be good. But now we've entered an apathy stage and people just don't care anymore. And I believe this movie is a prime example of that. This is a movie that had some glimmers of something good in it. But in the end, this film was just a soulless creation. The MCU is dead, and unfortunately, it was done by their own hand.